Okay. Uh, I'd just like to introduce the members of the Durham. This is our fifth Building Bridges program that we've had, starting off in 5 years from that time. You do the math. But we have been, we're really happy to be working together on building bridges for Children's Aid Society, Durham Children's Aid Society. As you know, there's an overrepresentation of Black children here. So we want to change that narrative. And so this is why we are here today. There are some things that you might not know about the Children's Aid Society, in that it might have been a case where, oh, they just want to take away my child. We're here to tell you that not necessarily the case. That's not what the case. So more will be said about that later on in the program. So by way of introduction, for members of the Durham Children's Aid Society Committee Advisory Council, if you just take a bow when I call your name, Sandra Forsyth, and thank you.
Sorry, I lost my voice and I wasn't even yelling. I was planning on yelling today.
Okay, awesome. And Blessing, is more up? Is Blessing here? Okay, she's perhaps on her way. Akila. Akila is here, yeah. Shirley. Shirley is here. Your student, Leroy Clark. Raphael. So, here he is. Wanda. Dawn. And I'm giving you the first name because this will give you an opportunity to go and find out what's your last name. So this is your opportunity. This is your opportunity to talk and to meet each other. This is a community and we want you to meet and greet each other. Brian. Good. Aisha. I saw Aisha. Oh, there she is. Okay, she's okay. And Elaine. Okay, so this is, sorry. Oh, how could I forget you? She was at the top. She was at the top. Virulin, who is not here today, they're the co-chairs, by the way. Virulin is away, hard worker, community, and Rhoda. So, first name, yeah. So, just in case I get myself in trouble. So, you have the first names, and it's your opportunity now to go around and meet. So, I don't think it's a great turnout. Thank you so much for being here. And I think others are on their way. But until that time, there are other seats over here, so we'll make sure that you are comfortable. Enjoy the meal, as I said, and we'll continue to listen up. I'll get on to call to Black National Anthem by Faith. Faith? Oh, you're eating. Oh. You're not eating. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Hello. I'm very sick, so well, let's see how this goes. It's called the Legal National Anthem. It's by James Weldon. Okay.
Sorry, since I don't want to interrupt, but we should actually get everyone to stop.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise. High as the listening the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chasing rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with the steady beat have our weary feet come to the place for which our Father sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright stars cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Lord who has brought us this far on the way. Lord who has by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we meet. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, we meet thee. Lest our hearts jump with the wine of the world. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
Thank you. Thank you. And that song is the narrative of our journey. Thank you so much for your a cappella presentation. Thank you so much. At this time, I'll call upon Raphael to give a formal welcome.
I'm just going to repeat what Leroy has already said. Welcome to Sarah McDonald's Place and the 5th annual Building Bridges event. Your presence here is greatly appreciated, and I would be amiss if I didn't tell you a little bit about the history of this place. Sarah McDonald's Place, to my knowledge, is the only black acquired and managed social housing in Durham region. And we've been at this for more than 25 years. As a matter of fact, the building was officially opened in 1995, so this is about 24 years now. And I think there's just about 7 years left and it will be paid off. We see this space here as being community oriented, and any organization from the community has access to it. And we more than pleased to host the 5th annual Building Bridges event. And we hope by the time we leave here, you'll learn a little bit more about what Children's Aid Society is about. I know many people might have had dealing with Children's Aid or know of somebody who has, and they may have some negative connotations when the word Children's Aid Society is mentioned. We're going to have this cleared up here for you this evening. So sit back, relax. And by the way, I hate to use this word, sit back, relax. Because I heard it once when I was on a plane, And the plane dropped from 29,000 to 11,000 feet. And it was around mealtime, and then the captain had the temerity to come up and say, ladies and gentlemen, we were as much surprised as you were. Anyway, have fun and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Raquel. That doesn't mean that you should not relax. Actually, we want you to feel at home right here. I just want to also introduce you to Brian. Brian was one of the founding members of this council, along with Wanda and Akila, as well as Sandra. And Leland Dutch, who is it? So, did I leave anyone out? Oh, okay. Oh, yours truly. Thank you. So we go far back in terms of our relationship and building relationship. I'm really pleased that we could be together because we have accomplished a lot over the time that we have been working. So I'll call on Brian to
say a few words, but I don't take up too much of your time. Thanks very much, everybody, for coming. As Leroy said, I've had the honor of being part of the Community Advisory Council since its inception. I'm a firm believer in the tremendous value of talking to each other with respect, with compassion, with humility. It is a way to ultimately, I think, solve big problems at the end of the day. If we just simply take the time to understand the perspective that each of us brings to an issue, we can try to understand how we can come to different conclusions, to different versions, to different ways of seeing it. And I commend the members of the community, Leroy, Sandra, Akila, and Leland, who started this by writing to the agency some years ago and said, we really need to talk. We need a forum where we can regularly meet and talk to each other. And I commend the agency for having the courage to respond back and says, you're right, let's try and do something. And that's how this Community Advisory Council was formed. There's no order from above, no legislation from Queen's Park that says you have to do this. In fact, I know that Durham CAS was the first of any CAS in the province to create the CAC of this nature, and may well still be the only one, I don't know. But certainly Durham was the first to take this initiative. It takes courage. You're a public agency to open yourself up to the public and say, let's talk. Odds are you're going to get criticism from that. Odds are you're going to get certain assumptions, some of which may well be valid, and criticism. And it takes courage to take time out of your day job and basically put yourself out to take those criticisms and to try and genuinely find a way to understand each other and address them. So I really commend the agency and the community for coming together. As Leroy said, we have got to know each other. We have accomplished a lot. From ideas that start off with, well, you know, really doesn't like how something is done in the agency, to the agency exploring out, getting some details, and figuring out ways to try and address the concerns. And explain sometimes why certain things have to be done the way they are, even if it does look a little bit difficult to an outsider. As my role as a member of this council is one of the board of directors for the Durham CAS. The council consists of members of the community, members of senior management of staff from the CAS, and 3 members of the board of directors. The board is a voluntary board. Every one of us does this out of our own time. You ask me for a payment, probably the last 7 years out for some reason. Because we start off as but part of that, I was for the last 2 years, I was a president of the board, and within our bylaw, the presidency term ends after 2 years, and a new president is elected. So our next speaker is going to be Sonia Munoz, who is our president, elected as of this year, and will be for the remainder of this year, and hopefully next year as well. So I'll pass it on to you, and hopefully you all have a good evening and informative evening tonight.
Thank you very much. Hello everybody, I just wanted to say thank you for coming. I want to, like Brian said, kudos to the initiative from the community and to the organization to come together. You know that East Bridges is about removing barriers, and that's what you've been doing for the past 12 years. And hopefully you can continue removing the barriers so that building bridges is about building community. And the only way you can build community is you talk to each other, you understand each other, and then you start building relationships. So I just want to wish us a good event. And for that, over to you, everyone.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, there are two people who were charter members of this council that I forgot, and that was Don. Welcome, Tars. Don, right over here. But there's also another lady who is no longer with the agency, Tamina, who was a very, how do I put it? She has worked very hard so that this council is a reality today. So in her absence, I want us to just give her a hand. She really helped us to get to this point today. So, I also want to thank the other members of the CAS who are supporting us in various ways tonight. And I see Shane over there. He's been doing this for 5 years now. Give him a hand. Andrea Jensen. Andrea, did I call her correctly?
Yes, that was good.
Andrea, who's been doing the media for us as well. Susan Neal. Over there. Okay. Terry Dudley. Okay. Carol Green. Thank you. And so thank you so much for the work that you've been doing. And Amanda. Oh, how could I forget Amanda? You've been doing such a great job with us. Thank you so much. You got in there when Tamina left, and you did a great job. Thank you so much for the work that you've done. So this time I will call on the Community Advisory Council introduction of scope. Yeah.
You already understood from what Leroy was speaking about, a little bit about the history of the council, who struck the council, when he struck. Actually, the building bridges is 5 years. The council has been in place for maybe 6.5. It's been 6. It took us a while.
3 years for the land of
2015.
I feel like I've been doing this for 10 years. 10 years. Okay. So, background, a little bit of background and scope on what we are doing. I remember the first meeting that we had with Wanda. It was actually, Sandy and I were in Wanda's office. I'm not sure if Dawn was there, there? And I was talking about trade reporting. Because I understand that we have a problem with overrepresentation of Black and Indigenous children in child welfare across the province. One of the reasons why this is true is because of trite reporting. And trite reporting is a term that I came up with to talk about. What I was saying is that it is tantamount to carding. Because what happens is that we get these calls, or not we, but CAS gets these calls about situations that are being reported. One of the most outstanding ones hit the Toronto Star, and that was about a Black child bringing roti to school, and therefore Children's Aid Society was called because, of course, roti is a clear indication that your child is being abused, right? I mean, it's sarcasm. We've had these situations ongoing for decades, and so one of the issues that Durham Children's Aid Society has been working with in partnership with the community members of the Community Advisory Council is the issue of trite reporting. Durham Children's Aid Society and the Community Advisory Council are working towards plugging ourselves into the provincial efforts that were brought about by the Ontario Association of Children's Aid Societies, which had a provincial-wide analysis of our problem under One Vision, One Voice. And out of One Vision, One Voice, you can see the document up here, and if you have a chance to browse it, or you can look at it online, we have a whole bunch of recommendations that are very important. We're working to put those recommendations in place in Durham. Happily, The One Vision, One Voice, one of the things that they left behind is a provincial community advisory council, which was not in place prior to the One Vision, One Voice work that we done under Kiki Ojo. The whole notion of a community advisory council was first, I think, born in Toronto and really took root in Durham region, as you see us here working, right? And now we have it on a provincial level. When they were striking it on a provincial level, I was contacted and asked for input, and they were actually wanting to look at the work that we were doing in Durham. One of the things that the provincial community advisory council was interested in is the notion of trite reporting and how Black families get their names written down and are kept on files that are kept forever because somebody didn't bring a juice box to school, or somebody brought a roti and somebody actually brought black cake. You know, that's clearly egregious. So they actually looked at our terms of reference, which we spent a lot of time developing in Durham, and happily the Provincial Advisory Council was interested in looking at that as well. I'm not saying that they're actually using our terms of reference, but I'm just saying that they perused them when they were coming up with their own framework. So the scope has been, it's been pretty wide. We've created a ripple effect that has impacted the provincial work to reduce towards eliminating the disproportionate numbers of Black children in care. We are trying to address anti-Black racism because it is something that absolutely needs to be addressed. Our goal is to make sure that if 8% of the population is Black, 8% of the people in Children's Aid Society are Black. That would be fair, because Black people have need for Children's Aid Society, but not 42% of us if 8% of us are Black. So we want to just eradicate that disproportionality, and that's what we're working towards. I know that I was supposed to talk about the... Okay. We are here as last time having the opportunity and the privilege of having Wanda Secord with us. Wanda Secord is the executive director of Durham Children's Aid Society, and she's the one who, when called upon, when Sandra said to her, "Hey, Wanda," she said, "Yes." That was very interesting because Wanda didn't have to say yes. And if Wanda didn't say yes, well, none of us would be here and we wouldn't have had the last 4 building bridges and have done the work that we've done. And as I said earlier, it was almost groundbreaking because although Toronto thought of it, Durham really got off and running with it in a way that Toronto had not yet in terms of having a community advisory council. And thank you, Wanda, for that. I talk about this to say this is Wanda's last building bridges because Wanda is going to retire from her position. In fact, she's retiring, period. I don't think she's going to a different position. So I should say, I think Wanda's just going to go and do Wanda and enjoy her life without having to report to work and manage staff and good travel and relax and get up when you feel like it and do what you want, Wanda. Wanda's been with the Children's Aid Society in Durham for, I believe it's 34 years. And she was in child welfare prior to that. And she's only, what, 43? She's been working, this is why Wanda is doing this work, because she was a child laborer, okay? So, thank you very much, and thank you very much, Wanda.
Well, thank you very much, Sheila, for recognizing my retirement and the kind words about my role in this. But since we're talking about birthing experiences, you allude to that very nicely. I gotta tell you when I first met Sandra, and it was at the African Canadian Legal Clinic Summit in Toronto on April 29th, 2015. And I was there amongst many representatives of child welfare in the GTA. There were also different panels with police and education and whatnot. and the auditorium was packed. There must have been at least 200, if not more, people there. So yes, I was talking about the work that we were doing and all this, and I was, after all that was over, and we had the panel, this lady said to me, she said, you from Durham. You talking to me? Yes, you from Durham. Would you be willing to have a consultation with the African Canadian community in Durham region? And that's the beginning. We kind of held hands and we did it. We're the grandmas, or the grannies, or whatever, and we've had lots of really great support from the community leaders who were introduced in the council, the society, and the board members. So that's the birthing experience. Thank you, Sandra. Sometimes I wondered about thank you, Sandra, but it's been wonderful. It's been a very important initiative.
Thank you. I just want to interject here that it was not always, just in case you think the Children's Aid have us in our pockets. They don't. There's nothing like that. Because I will tell you, there has been some really fireworks, yes. There has been fireworks. And you will understand, when our children are at risk, our entire future is at risk. And so we do not take this lightly. We do not take this lightly at all. So I want you to know that if we are not there just to be comfortable, we have not been comfortable in the past. We have had some real time when, yeah, Sandra and what's that?
Calling my name.
Yeah, I've called your name because they fireworks from time to time. And yes, there was. But that has a message though, that we can disagree, but we can also work together for the common good. And I think that's what the issue is. We cannot get so tied up in my position that my position is right so that we cannot move forward. So this is something that I want you to know. And as we present to you tonight some of what is happening, I'm not saying it's always going to be comfortable, but we can be respectful of each other. So I think that's what I asked of you tonight, that you know what, if you're uncomfortable about something, don't be afraid to voice that, but I ask that you do that with respect. Okay, so I appreciate your cooperation in that regard. This time, I'll call on...
To introduce Rona.
Rona. Oh, you forgot to do that. Yeah.
It wasn't my turn.
Okay.
All right. Yes, I'm absolutely delighted to be able to present Rona Joelle Van Oudenhoven, who is our anti-oppressive practice, diversity, equity, and inclusion manager. Amanda did some interim work for us, and thank you for acknowledging Amanda's work. And I want to tell you a little bit about Rona. Many of you in this room have worked very closely with Rona in the 6 months that she's been with us. She joined us on December 10th, 2018. But prior to that, Rona's had a vast experience in AOP-DEI work. She is a diversity and equity advocate who currently works with us, and we're so glad. Since she joined the agency, she has become involved with the Ontario Association of Children's Aid Societies Equity Strategic Council. She's worked in similar capacities in education, most recently at Durham College, managing the Indigenous, student life equity, sexual violence portfolios. But she's had a ton of international experience as well. She's been attached to the International Child Development Initiatives in the Netherlands as an independent consultant for 12 years, working internationally and in Canada, specializing in children and youth in areas of research, training, policy development, program managing, monitoring, and evaluation. Some of the many equity projects include Girl Power Program, Bangladesh, Pakistan and Nicaragua, Family and Community Empowerment Program in Palestine, Positive Deviance Kenya, in Kenya, refugee programs, Thailand and Burma, the World Bank's work in Siberia, Violence Against Children in Jamaica, Romania, Inclusivity Program for Persons with Disabilities in South Africa, Marginalization of Roma people in Central Europe, and Street Children in Italy. So she comes to us with vast experiences, lived experiences to the work, the equity work that we're doing at the organization and the sector, because already in these few 6 months, she's had a huge impact, not only on this agency, but starting to work into the community and our sector. So with that, I'd like to introduce Ron.
Is it only me, or is it many of you, when you have your bio read, you're like, oh my god, you don't want to hear it? So yeah, I was just kind of shrinking in it. And you know what, I'm really proud and happy to be part of this community circle. I must tell you that in my interview process, and this will give you a bit of the dedication of the CAS and the County Council, it was very key in that interview, the relationship that I have with the community and my commitment to reaching out to the community. So I just want to say that from the very onset, it was very clear that there was a need to have this rapport, and I'm very happy for it. It's a good thing. I'm also humble. It's a good thing that I'm not too much like a believer in monogamy, because I see myself married in many ways to to Durham CES, to the community, to the board, and to many of the partners within the organization. So basically, I hold myself accountable to many entities. At times, it's a difficult process to navigate, and I sit in the council, and that's quite true. There are a lot of fireworks during that council meeting. But you know what? Today we had an equity session. That's what I want to say to you as well. The slide that you're seeing. So we had there's a diversity, equity, and inclusion circle of practice, and we had a session on diversity and equity. Actually, Pika Udra was one of the keynote speakers together with Amber Crow. And those are some slides from them. Those are gifts to you. There are a lot of information there as well. Please feel free to take it. In a nutshell, what I want to say is that a lot of work is taking place, and we are having a conversation. Sandra and I are going to do the next segment where we talk about some of the achievements of the council, thus far, some of the work that we're doing. Before I am AO, and it will be remiss of me before I start, because I think it was forgotten in the process, but I would like to acknowledge the traditional characters of the Mississauga of Squamish Island First Nation, on which Durham is situated, and to know that it is on these lands that we pay tribute to the history and ancestral, the role that Indigenous people have played in the history of Canada. Thank you. When we start the council meeting, one of our achievements you will see is that we also have our own council statement that we developed, which we will read later on. Sandra.
So like I said, I was getting ready to lose my voice tonight, but the Lord said, "No, stop talking so I was start listening." And so it's good. Rona and I did slides. I'm sorry, I lost my voice and it's getting worse. I don't know. So Rona and I put together some slides of our accomplishments, and so she's going to go through. That's what I'm showing. When the slides start, Lori will talk about the first 3 slides.
While we wait for it, basically, the first slide was to introduce who I am and my role. So the title that I have at the organization is manager of anti-oppressive practice, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And my role basically is to lead, facilitate, and mentor, and support all levels of the organization. And I think I spoke to that. And I would like to say that this was also a community ask, that the position reports directly to the executive director.
But the position reports directly to the executive director. So when we're talking about achievements of the council, that is a success that we'd like to know.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mentioned the CAC statement. So one of the tough discussions that we had at the council meeting. Yeah. So one of the tough conversations that we had when I started my role, I said, okay, because I am a AOPD, one of the things that I normally do, it's just our way of being true to the call to action for the truth and reconciliation, was to start with the denial acknowledgement. And the conversation around it was like, yeah, but could we also develop something that speaks to the history of African Canadians? And we thought, yeah, that's quite all right. Okay, we can do that. And this process really was just amazing, because when I read the statement to you, you will see that you can see almost every individual in the words. So it was collectively developed. It was a statement that we drafted, and every member had something to say in terms of, we don't like this word, take it out, we like this, we want this instead, I don't like that. And it was really a great process. It was a joint effort by committee members. And using the statement at the beginning of every council meeting and events. Sandra, I think you've got but your voice, would you like to hear it, or do you want me to do it? Yeah.
I'll try. I think I was only thinking that.
But her Canadian history speaks of the brutal transplantation of bodies in the legacy that is black enslavement, and recognizes Resolution 68, 237 of the United Nations 2014 Declaration of the Decade of People for African Descent, and their right to recognition, justice, and development. This council has been born out of a commitment to advocate for the promotion of equity, transparency, and accountability in the practices relating to the lives of all marginalized and oppressed persons, and stands dedicated to this task.
And I think that's really beautiful. And you heard in the room about being uncomfortable, and I think today also at the session we had, we learned that it's okay to be, discomfortable or uncomfortable, because that's the only way you get change. And it's really about being comfortable with discomfort, so to speak, and there's a difference between comfort and safety, and that came out, very strongly. So that was a really great achievement, I think.
And so, one of the good things, we have a lot of tools that we work with the building bridges, and one of them is the recommendations, the 11 practices from the OVOV. So this is the beginning, and then. So OVOV, One Vision, One Voice, with Kiki did a couple of consultations, and in the end of the strategy. That's organization. We came up with these 11 practices, which you can see on the wall. So some of the stuff that we work, we make sure we incorporate some of the recommendations from the OVOV, and also documents from the ministry to make sure that we're in line with policies and regulations. So now we're gonna give you feedback on what we did last year. Because last year, the bridges, we spoke about provincial updates, 11 practices and principles. And this year, moving forward with discussion on how to incorporate some of those practices into policies and procedures, ensuring that they are in keeping with industry and standards. For example, we got a copy of the intake form. And last year we discussed the intake form. So this year what we're working on is improving it to include culturally appropriate questions that will help guide the intake workers. And that's part of it.
Another achievement is the African Canadian Resource List. As Bill and Bridges spoke about developing an African Canadian Resource List, and I'm very pleased that has happened. We have to acknowledge Amanda Colasico and Shane Vieira. Shane wanted me to stay.
I did not. I did not.
Brilliant.
I did not put that in.
I wanted to shout out. I'm training, but we can't be perfect, right? We have also made this list available for the two OACS for inclusion at the provincial level. And we've done a lot of work around raising awareness. Black History Month has been amazing. Beverly is here. She's one of the members of the Beverly, you want to stand? She's one of the members of the Collective Hands Committee. Melissa is also here. Melissa is HR. There's a lot of support from Melissa when it came to Black History Month in terms of working collaboratively with Collective Hands. So Black History Month saw a number of things happening. We saw the committee event with the panel. We saw a lot of we had an anti-black racism workshop led by G. Samuel, mandatory online anti-racism training for staff, the call it out training. And we're proud to say that the new project with Raphael, our own, very own Raphael Francis, will start in June. Raphael has agreed to do 4 workshops for us starting in June. And then we'll follow up in September. Thank you, Raphael. Thank you. And these are some of the new projects that the council is going to embark on collaboratively. And it mostly speaks to also my role in the capacity of AO to work with the council on policy reviews with inserting an AOPD islands, continuous collaborative workshop sessions. Right now, Dawn is the Director of Services, and myself, we are rolling out the Child and Youth and Equity Policy, and we are framing that in child's rights conversation. We've revived the AOP Steering Committee. We've had 2 meetings thus far, 3 meetings thus far. We also have the Youth Council that's also starting again. Yes?
So, can you tell me what AO means? What's the acronym that you're saying?
Anti-oppressive.
Yeah, so, because I think people are not familiar with all the acronyms.
Oh, you want me? Okay, sorry, yeah, sure. So anti-oppressive practice, diversity, equity, and inclusion. An easy way to remember is AOP and then DEI. Anti-oppressive practice. Hi, Suzette. So the bags are actually from Suzette. Thank you. So anti-oppressive practice is really about, in a nutshell, in a simple few words, it would be the way that we remove or decrease the deleterious effects of systemic oppression. And I think that sort of nicely captures it. Because when we start talking, and I think they talk about the representation of African Canadian children in care, Indigenous children in care, and disproportionality when you look at numbers, the reason why they are there, the bottom line is because it's systemic, right? It is systemic oppression, and it's basically the beauty of anti-oppressive practice is that it calls it out. And so oftentimes you would see diversity or just equity or inclusion. And I think for many it's a softer term, but the word anti-oppressive practices calls it what it is basically, and and combined, it makes you recognize the work that we have to do. So in terms of leading ultimately to equity and inclusion, right, which is where we want to be. And now we come to statistics.
Can you just go back to the subject?
Sure.
Because these things it doesn't mean anything to anybody there. So just one of the
Yeah.
things that I'm slipping for this stuff. Because this stuff here, we pick out some of the practices from there to work with these. So for example, we're working right now on the deeper engagement of community partners, and you can find that on Article 5.1. So it tells us, and we're going to combine it out or collaborate with the standards that the ministry has, and then we have like eligibility spectrum and all those things. We can make sure that when we come up with a document, that it's not conflicting with anything. So we get a yes and no. Yes, go ahead.
I call that
Sandra's second Bible, actually. It is read IOB. I don't think it's with the comes out Sandra's mouth, but it's not speak OB. But with that, I think we go to the statistics, and Wanda, are you presenting statistics? The community asked before this council meeting that we get some numbers and speak to those. So,
Hi, thanks very much, Zona and Sandra. I'm happy to show you some of the service statistics that we have with regards to African Canadian Black children in care and the service that we provide to families. So I want to start here on this side. So you'll see from the census, you can't really see it because it's kind of small. Okay, so based on this 2016 census for children and youth 0 to 19, which is a category in the census, in Durham Region there are 11.07% children who are identified as Black or identified as Black. In care, during the year, this past fiscal year, ending March 31st, 2019, 10.54% of children in care identify as Black. So I think when we're talking about disproportionality, you can see that we are actually very close, maybe a little slightly under, but I would say pretty good, pretty good. I'm going just to step over to this side of the slide to talk about the investigations that we do. So for those of you that may not be as familiar with children's aid processes, when there is a referral to the agency with a concern with regards to a child's safety, an allegation of maltreatment of any form, it is assessed at our intake department. So 8.8% of total investigations, so read that, total families referred, are families involving families with Black children. So I think this is a very positive statistic. However, these are new stats that we were able to gather this past year, and it relates to the investigation, but it is the percentage of children. This one is the percentage of families. These two are the percentage of children involved. So I'll go to this one because I was just talking about investigations. 13.7% of Black children involved in investigations. So that's at the intake level. This slide, or this graphic on this side, talks about all of our service offerings, from intake to our ongoing family services to children in care services. So 12.6% of Black children who receive any type of service from our agency. So these are numbers that or percentages that we need to have further exploration on. So what does this mean? Because if 8.8% of any family referred are involving Black children, but the children percentage is larger in both of these areas, slightly larger. So this is something that we need to look at to see what is that all about. Last year, we did show these statistics about the top reasons for service for all families who are referred to Children's Aid Societies. And then we were able to break it down for a top reason of service for families with Black children. So, again, it's difficult to see, but the top three, both areas, are the biggest, the largest numbers, so to speak. The fourth and fifth have much smaller sample sizes. So for all families, And this is to do with the eligibility spectrum codes that our ministry has us categorizing calls coming in, if you will. I'll use that language. In both areas, referrals around physical force or maltreatment. But we look at the number, we look at the percentage. Again, this is a percentage that we have to do further exploration on. 20.4% for all families and 26% for families involving Black children. So what is that all about? You know, when I hear Akila talk about reporting, trite reporting, what's happening there? Is there anything, is that a factor? Maybe we'll say it that way, in the reporting around physical force or maltreatment. The second reason for referral for all families is what is known as, it's a broad category, caregiver with a problem. That could be mental health problems, that could be substance abuse issues, etc. We'll see that's the third highest reason for referral with families involving Black children at 12.5% compared to 17.4%. Third is child exposure to partner violence for all families, 16.5%. Slightly higher, 17.6% for families involving Black children. And then, as I mentioned, for priorities 4 and 5, with a fairly small sample size in each, for all families, abusive sexual activity, and 5, caregiver child conflict, child behavior. In the reasons for referral for families with Black children, caregiver skills, 7.3, and caregiver child conflict, child behavior, which is the same for both. So I think it gives us a snapshot, but it also gives us reasons for further insight into what factors may be involved in this. The last set of stats I wanted to show you is something that I think we've talked about over the years. It's certainly something that the council has talked about over the years. Where are the referrals coming from? Education and police services in the main. So main reason for referral for all demographics: law enforcement, police, education, followed by parents or themselves, and then from the health, medical personnel. Main reasons for referrals or referral sources involving Black children, it switched the top two. So education, law enforcement or police, and then the same, parent, self, and medical personnel. So this is something that council has talked about quite a lot over the last couple of years, and we continue to talk about it in terms of the referral sources and what opportunities there are for the society to help educate our referral sources about, making referrals to the society, because we have no choice in whether a referral comes to us or not. And we have to follow the mandate and the standards when the referral sources do come, the referrals do come to us. But there are opportunities here for us to educate and have dialogue with our primary referral sources. I would think that would be a fair statement. Would you agree with that? So those are the stats that I wanted to share. This one is new. We were able to break that down this year. Referral sources regarding our families with Black children. There's one more. Okay, there's one more. Again, these are new. We were able this year to break down placement types. When a child comes into our care, where are they placed? So, using the same categories, we wanted to keep apples-to-apples comparison, 0 to 19. We have 39 Black children in care as of March 31st, 2019. We have many kids, young people now, that are moving through our system, that came in at a younger age, all demographics, that are moving through the system towards what is called aging out of care at 21. So we have 16 Black youth on independent living, of the 39, 10 who are in group care, 5 who are in foster care, 5 who are in another fostered arrangement, but it is a purchase foster parent arrangement. I should say this first group of 5 is our own Durham CAS foster homes. 1 who is in kinship care, so that is a particular family member or friend has come forward to present a plan to care for that specific child or youth. 1 that was adopted, and 1 that was in detention. So that is the breakdown of the placement type as the end of March. We were asked this question last year, and so this year, 23.3% of all of our internal foster caregivers, foster homes, are identified as Black, which is something that we have really been we have been working on for many years, because we want to have culturally appropriate matches wherever we can for kids who are in care. And we did have in our adoptions that were finalized in this past year, a third of them, 4 out of 12 adoptions involve Black children.
Okay. Thank you. I think a hand is good for that. Thank you so much, Wanda. Statistics are great because keeping that tells us that where we need to be and where we need to go. So that's very useful. So if we don't have the data, it would seem as if it doesn't exist. So data is very important, and that helps to guide us our actions. Thank you so much. Now there are graphics. The infographics are available over here if you'd like to get a copy of it. So that's awesome. Now, I know the time is flying away, and how are you enjoying it so far? Well, I don't know if that's the word to use, but how is it going for you so far? Thumbs up? Informative? Okay, awesome. Okay, so we are going to have a kinship care presentation at this time. And I know we are about how many minutes behind? I know we are almost 30 minutes behind. And we are competing with a game. Okay, so I think most people are hoping to go and get a part of the game. So the presenters will perhaps be a little fast and get to the meat so that we can see the game. Okay, thank you.
Coming to present about kinship, we have this evening Max Kriakov, who's the director of our resources and residential services, and Michelle Walker is the supervisor of kinship services. So they're here to talk to you about what that means, what that looks like, and how many things.
So just to introduce, part of our department is a foster care team. So that's a team that tries to manage children when they come into care, try to find a placement for them. We also have a placement team. That's a team that determines what is the level of needs of the child, and so we try to find the best match. And then we also have kinship team. And kinship team, they're like family finding and trying to, find a place for a child within a community or with their family. And Michelle is in charge of our kinship team, so she will do the presentation.
I appreciate that I'm coming up against the big final, and I know that people would rather be getting ready to watch something, but I also understand there was a lot of interest in hearing about our kinship program at Durham. So I have been the kinship supervisor on and off since 2008. I say on and off because kinship has gone through a number of different changes over the time in how we run the program. So currently there are two parts of kinship. There's kinship service and kinship care, and I will explain those. So we've been doing kinship in one way or the other since about 2003 at Durham. And we had identified that it would be much better off for children to be looked after by their family members where that isn't ever possible, and if not, somebody known to the child, whether it is a family friend or a member of their community. So if we cannot keep them in their own home with their families, and I'm sure you've heard lots of different stories about the things that we do at the agency to try to keep the children in their own homes wherever possible, we start looking at what is a safe alternative living situation for them. And we know that children do better in the long run when they're with people who know them and love them and are interested in them. It's not to say anything about our foster parents who try to do as best as they can. But there is nothing like family or community for knowing who you are and what's best for you. Shane's got some pretty awesome graphics going here. So for kin service, you may have heard that terminology before, but it is for children who are not in the care of the society. So these are situations where children are voluntarily placed with somebody by their parents or caregivers, or for where there is an order of supervision by the court. So for some families, if there is court involvement, a decision is made that they can't stay with mom or dad or with whoever has been caring for them. They can be ordered to be placed with grandma, grandpa, family friend, auntie, uncle, somebody from their church. There's a number of different people that children could be placed with. So what we do in our department is an assessment of the people who are proposing to care for the child. So that's to ensure that there is safety and permanency in that home for the child. And the reason the word permanency is there is not because that's our first priority, but we do have to look at if we are having a child leave their own home, if at some point in the future they can't go back home, what's their ability of the family or friends or community member who's come forward to care for them in the long term? Because we need to know that going forward. At the end of the day, we don't want to move children around if we can avoid it at all costs. So the family is assisted through members on my team to access community supports available on behalf of the child. So those are things like financial supports through Ontario Works. There is a temporary care allowance that's available. There would be counseling services through community resources. It would be accessing perhaps our medical clinic or connecting with a doctor or attending school. There's a number of different things that we can do to support, but the intent is to support the family of the child and working collaboratively with the family where that's possible. Ideally, parents remain involved when a child is in kinship service and are helping make decisions. I know that's not always possible, but we do strive to make that happen. As far as financial support from the agency, when we start to talk about kin care and most children are in the care of the society, there is a daily per diem like any child in foster care. In kinship service, our financial support is episodic. So we try to do things to help families get set up for children if they're not, if it's an infancy, maybe not used to having a crib, we help get those things going. If there's a car seat, we can provide vouchers to help get those, I see vouchers, it's a Walmart gift card. If there's clothing that's required with camp, we can access a number of different services. And there are a couple of internal agency support services that we can access to help with their behavioral needs of the child. So as we've mentioned, kinship care is for children who are in the care of the society. So kinship care parents go through the same process that our foster and adoptive applicants go through. So the home study is more involved. It is a safe home study. There is a requirement to do the PRIDE training. And all of the licensing requirements that our foster parents have to meet have to be met in the kinship care home. Once the home is approved, there is a per diem. The children are in care, so the child has their own worker. The family has their own worker. And there are a number of other support services that are available for all children in care that are available to children in kinship care. I don't think there's anything other than, like I say, it's meeting all of the student requirements that I will be honest, can seem very overwhelming to family members who are looking to care for their child. So lots of times people want to know, how is it, I know somebody in my family has either come into the care of the Children's Aid Society, or they're involved with the Children's Aid Society, or there's a likelihood that something could happen. And so they want to know how they can get in touch with us. So how that is done would be through the worker that the child's family is with. So that worker then, sometimes the agency workers will reach out to family. We will try to contact you to find out if you are interested in caring for a child within your family. You might not have even been aware that that child is involved with our agency. Other times, you are calling us to say, I've heard through the family grapevine, and I want that child to use my house. What do I need to do? So the family worker for the child will make a referral to our department, and they let us know then what type of assessment they are looking for. So if that child or family that you know about is involved in another jurisdiction, so you live here in Durham, but family members in Windsor or Ottawa or Timmins, that is the agency that has to be contacted in order to put forth your plan. If you live here and the child that is involved from your family lives in Ottawa or Timmins or anywhere else, including out of province, including out of country, they will contact our agency to do that assessment most of the time. So for example, just as a snapshot, I currently have assessments on my team from Windsor, from Ottawa, which is why I spoke to them, and from the United Kingdom. Those assessments out of province and out of the country sometimes look a little bit different than what I've talked about here, because we are working with the requirements from that particular province or country, and sometimes they're a little bit different than what we would normally do here. But they tend to be all of the same kinds of things. So what we would be doing for any of our assessments, we would be checking the child welfare background. We would be looking at a criminal reference check. We would be meeting with you and with any of the adult members of your family to talk about your current situation, what you understand about circumstances, what your interest is in doing this short-term, long-term, permanently. There's always lots of discussion around how you can facilitate family meetings, agency expectations around if the child is in care and coming to the training and coming to different SOS meetings, which you may have heard of before. And so essentially, it's a conversation that we have with you over a period of sessions in order to come up with a recommendation. In terms of whether it's in service versus in care, that is also a discussion with the family worker. Sometimes children need to be in care for certain circumstances and sometimes they don't. So we take our direction from what discussions have been within the family and within the worker. I do. Okay. So the end goal of the agency, wherever possible, we want kids to go home to their moms, dads, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever has been looking after them. Reunification is always our first priority. If we cannot do that, we would far rather have them with somebody in their family or community. One of the things that I will be honest can frustrate family members who come forward for kinship from the beginning is the expectation to work towards that reunification. That's why we talk about it, that's why we have meetings, because we want everybody to be working towards the same goal. I talked a bit about SOS, so we have conferences where everybody involved needs to get together and talk about goals and planning and what the family and community can do to support the parents if the child returns home, and what the family and community can do to support other family members if the child is returning home. Where a child cannot safely return to their parents, we start to look at permanence with kin, whether that's through an agreement, as in everybody agrees that the children are going to stay with auntie, whether that's through some sort of a court order, through our court system, through the family court system. And once that's achieved, we look to be out. And that's it. Was that fast enough?
I think they're going to cut you off at 8:30, and I think Raphael said the big screen is available. Thank you so much, Michelle. Really useful. Now, in terms of questions and answers, now I'm sure you have a lot of questions for talking about. I'm going to turn this over to Blessing to moderate this question and answer part of it. What I do ask you though is please stick to the time. There's a time. Shailene is here, our timekeeper, and please try your best not to do too much of a preamble so that you can get as many people in as possible. And again, be respectful. Treat the person who is answering the question just as you would want to be treated. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, and all the best.